Hey, Stinky.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Barely. Hold it. Wait a second. Yeah, no, just barely.
Can you hear me now?
Where are you, in a trash can?
I don't know. I'm on the road.
Where are you?
On the road. You know where I am? I am pumpernickel.
I can't hear you.
I ordered pumpernickels. I'm at pumpernickel.
Hold on a second.
I'm in the middle of I finished ordering pumpernickels.
Oh, nice guy you are.
I got corned beef. I got coleslaw.
You know what? Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up.
All right. You know what else I like on my sandwich? An onion, a fresh onion.
You know what I like on my sandwich?
What?
Pickled pig's feet.
Pig's feet.
Yeah, and pig's knuckles and the whole 9 yards.
Oh shit! I'll take 3.
So did you get me any corned beef?
Huh?
Did you get me any corned beef?
Yeah, if you want to come over, I got enough.
I'll be over in 10 minutes.
All right. What are you gonna fly?
No, I'm gonna get my broom out.
All right, see you.
Okay, close the door, please.
Mm-hmm. Pizza then, right?
Mhm.
Hello?
Hello, Helen. You're muted. There you
Hi,
are.
Eva. How are you?
Thank God I'm here.
I think we
how are you?
all like to
Ladies?
say that these days.
I have a
Ladies,
dear
how are
friend
you?
whose favorite expression is, I'm
Hello,
above the grass.
There you go. Who could ask for more than that?
That's true. Ladies, how are you?
We're good. So, gentlemen, it's nice to meet you.
Thank
Is
you.
Mike coming on tonight? He's the only face I seem to know, so usually.
Yeah. My name is John Green, by the way, if you don't know me.
Hi, John. It's nice to meet you.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you for having us year after year. This is very nice programming that you do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I didn't have much to do with it, but usually Mike Felcher
Mike
has a
usually
lot to
takes
do.
care of it.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, that's probably why I recognize his name more than anyone else's.
Yeah, Mike should get all the should get the accolades for it because he put it together.
So how many people are you expecting tonight? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. Usually it's up to the president and the club how many to come out tonight. Should be a good
Nice,
amount
you'll be
of people. Should be a
surprised.
good amount of people, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Who
Sheriff.
issued the Zoom link for tonight?
It should have been Art Binder. I thought it was Art Binder for Quaker City.
Yeah, Art Binder is the president, I think.
Yes, correct. And he issued the Zoom
Yeah,
request.
he should be on any minute.
Okay, because usually you can't get on until the person who issues the link gets on. So I thought maybe one of you had done it.
I didn't put it on, but like I said, I usually Mike does it
Okay.
early, so.
Well, John's an important person. He can get on anytime.
Okay,
I don't know about all that.
now I know.
I don't know about all that.
Right. And it looks like some of your members are hiding tonight. They don't want to be seen.
It
heard
looks
from,
like that
no?
according to what I see, yeah.
Ah, there
Steve's
he
here,
comes.
Steve's here joining us.
Hi, John.
He was here.
Oh, Bart.
I think
Bart
he's
is-
here. I don't know where he is, but he's here somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
So are
I'm
you
in the
a
middle.
long-time member? Oh,
Hello,
my
guys.
goodness.
Art, How are you?
Yeah, well, I'm laying in bed. I've been in bed for 4 days.
Oh, what is
Sorry to
it?
hear that,
That
Bart.
doesn't sound good.
Yeah, I pulled my back out pretty bad. I have no idea why.
Mm.
So,
Anyway, look, good to see you.
yeah, look, I'm looking at myself in here and I said, geez, you look terrible. I did shower today. That's a big deal.
It's a good thing.
If it doesn't settle down, I'm going to actually see the doctor instead of talking to him. They'll give me a shot and send me for some PT, and they'll stretch out whatever's kinked up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, no big deal. This is just pain and aggravation, but it's nothing bad.
Yeah.
That's why I kept my visual off.
Oh. But
You don't
anyway,
want anyone to know you're in pain, huh?
Ah,
You look good, Bart.
yes, you do.
I'm vertical, I'm alive. Well, I'm horizontal, but I'm still alive.
Main thing.
Uh,
Eva just
You know, I
got
don't
done
get
saying, as
excited
long
about
as you're above the grass, you're in good shape.
I
Right.
don't get excited about this kind of stuff. You just deal with it and move on.
That's
So
good.
how about you guys? Hillary, Andrea, how you guys doing?
Good,
Good.
good, Bart.
We're in good shape. We're in good shape. thank God.
Hillary had his knee operated.
Oh, I had my knee operated on back in December, and since then I've had tons of PT, and the knee is like perfect now. I mean, no pain or nothing, stronger than ever. In fact, my right knee was the one that was replaced. The leg in the right is much stronger than the one in the left, which is
Okay.
was touched.
There's Ed.
So anyway, so I'm in good shape, and Andrea's in good shape, thank God. So we're happy to be here and watching you guys.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
we
We're
take,
glad you joined us tonight.
Illustrious Sir Ed Blum is here.
oh, hi, Ed.
Hello.
Oh,
Good to see
Hi,
you.
Ed.
Good to be seen. How you doing,
So
Bart?
how often does this group have Zoom meetings? Have you been meeting once a month or more often than that?
A few times a month.
I'm
And have
gonna
you
do
been
a
able
little
to
texting, guys.
do anything as an organization during COVID, or have you just been?
We did Zoom meetings. We had an activities club meeting last week. It was a pretty successful thing.
Yes.
very
That's
successful.
nice.
People got together for it.
Oh,
We
we
missed
went
it, we
to the
missed it.
meeting. There was a
No,
meeting.
no, but the activities club, they had a great. I mean, it was so successful.
Sticky.
And then June 11th, they're having another one. And really, everyone should sign up for it because it will be really great again. I mean, the activity, what Mike Felcher does
Oh, we-
and Dan Sheets and everyone else and the activities club, they all do great things. I mean, you end up with, and the Fink brothers and the,
Hey, here goes one of them.
hey,
How you doing?
Sticky.
Hello.
no comment.
What? We just got on.
They just joined us. They were talking about Stinky's on the line now.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
all over the place.
Right.
In a car, I'm driving.
Yeah, I heard you talk about the activities club. We had a great get together the other day.
Right.
We had about 40, 45 people, and 3 new members came out of it.
Right.
Half of them, more than half, maybe 85% were non-members. So it was a good time. Had the baseball game in the Mary Mac room. We had the basketball game outside the Mary Mac room. We had
There he is. There's Art.
the game room up and running.
Cars outside.
The bar was I mean, it was pretty unique.
Right.
And then while we were eating, we did a round robin of talking about each other, introduced everybody.
That's nice. That's,
Yeah. And we got quite a few people that wanted to be Masons too.
Hey, oh,
Yeah, so,
Oh.
well, we're looking forward to the June 11th meeting or event.
well, that should be interesting. It's gonna be the Three Stooges marathon. And that'll be against the wall, the Merrimack wall, with a fire pit. In the Merrimack room, there's gonna be Hallmark movies for the ladies. The game room will be up and running again, and we're gonna have the other TV. We're actually getting somebody to come out and wire it so we can watch the basketball game. It's playoffs. So, and outside that room again is going to be a fire pit, of course. Pizzas, hoagies, fried chicken, hot dogs, and if they have shrimp on sale, I'll buy that already cooked.
And camel's milk, of course.
Oh yeah.
Art,
Camel's milk. The potentate is treating us for that.
Oh.
He did it this year. Well, I didn't get paid yet, so we'll see if I get that check. And it's only $10. It's only
He's not gonna
$10.
join us tonight, so
It's
have a
only-
comment afterwards.
It's only $10 a person. So, and as long as we break even, I don't care. And we get members from this, it's well worth it.
Very good. Excellent.
That's for sure.
Yes.
The members are more important than the money.
And they're young. They're
Right.
young members.
Good, everybody.
That's what we're trying to gear ourselves to.
Oh, it's 7.
No, we got time.
We have time.
It's not 7 yet.
It's nice. Smooth.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Kenny, how are you?
Can I go there?
Hey, Ben.
Yeah, see ya.
I don't care. Oh, it's been, oh. Where's
Turn
Sally?
your- Ben. you're not-
Who's that lady there?
Where's Sally?
Oh, you turned it off.
From off? Guys are nuts.
How's
Now we
Sally?
got, now we got the faint going. Pardon? She's downstairs.
Oh.
She's got some other thing going on. Well, there's Doug, Don, and Dad.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have dinner, so I don't wanna eat while you're looking at me.
What?
No,
I'm-
wait. I All right, second that motion.
Yeah,
Not something like it.
Make sure my,
Some people muted.
Yeah, some are muted and some aren't muted. Ed is muted and Ben is muted. What are all these illustrious sirs are muted?
Mike Felcher is normally doing the muting, but since he is tied up right now, he set up this meeting, and while Eva is speaking, I would like nobody else to, speak, and then we're gonna open it up for questions.
Don't know what.
So,
Start on time at 7?
7
Or do
o'clock.
your members generally come in a little late?
We start at 7 o'clock, but it's not uncommon for people to come in later.
Okay.
But I would like to start at 7.
Most people are on time.
Yeah, 2 more minutes.
2 minutes to 7, and this doesn't seem to be your typical crowd.
Thank you, Ellen.
Someone has to define typical.
I was referring to numbers.
And, Okay.
Even that.
I just want to introduce two people before we actually start. This way you have an idea of who's on. First, Helen Kirschenbaum. Is that the way I said it?
You were close.
Well, okay. And she's the director of the Esther Raab Holocaust Museum and Goodwin Education Center. And our speaker tonight is Eva Weiner.
Wiener.
Huh?
Wiener. Wiener.
Oh, it is an, I have it as an M. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Anyway, so I'm sorry about that. And so Eva's going to be the speaker. So we're going to start at 7 o'clock. And if anybody, what's that?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, yes.
If you could remind everyone to please put their microphones on mute while she's speaking.
Yes. Actually,
You're
I
on a
did.
computer. It's in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. You can click on the microphone.
Well, on mine, it's on the upper right-hand corner.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, I can see it.
Okay.
Turn your computer upside down, and it'll be on the lower left, Art.
Okay. All right. All right. Oh, I don't want to go into it where I got the computer from. Anyway, so we're going to start now. And good evening, everyone. I want to thank everyone for logging in and attending our virtual meeting. This is the QuakerCityMontco Shrine Club annual May SHOAH or Holocaust Awareness meeting. I know that we have several friends and family who are attending our meeting tonight. We're going to open via proper Shriner protocol. For those of you who are not Shriners, this is the formal way we open our meetings. Here is a bit of explanation of the terms you are about to hear. The Quaker City Montco Shrine Club is a member of the Lulu Shriners of Plymouth meeting. The Lulu Shrine leader or president is referred to as a title of potentate. A potentate is an Old English term which means a person who rules or governs. We refer to the Lulu potentate as illustrious sir, and the past potentates are referred to as illustrious sirs. The elected officers of the Lulu Shrine are referred to as the divan. The term illustrious sir is an Old English term for a person of distinguished, person. Shriners are referred to as nobles, and their significant others are referred to as ladies. And we will now open the formal way. Hold on for 1 minute. Okay. Welcome to all the illustrious sirs, members of the divan, past presidents of the Quaker City Shrine Club, nobles, ladies, guests, and I will now call on our high priest and prophet.
Assistant Rabban, Art.
Mr. McBann's, yeah. Thank you.
Well, I have Dan Sheets.
There you go.
Dan
Yeah.
Sheets is here.
Dan Sheets here to give our opening prayer. And so, everyone.
Yes, bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to be together with our Quaker City Montco Shrine Club. We appreciate everybody being together tonight. We thank you so much for watching over us during these difficult health times. We ask that you continue to watch over our children that are in our care and those who take care of our children, our first responders and our military dispersed everywhere who's taking care of our freedoms. We ask that you allow us an open mind to enjoy this evening's program. This we ask in the honor of your name. Amen. So mote it be.
Okay. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to call on Fred Rhetoric, if he doesn't mind.
It's okay.
Fred?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United
States of
States
America.
of America.
and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation under God,
indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for attending our meeting tonight. I'm so happy to see everyone. The SHOAH meeting each May is always one of our best of the year. Before I start, I would like to introduce the QuakerCityMontco ShrineClub officers. I am Arthur Binder. I am the current president of the club. The first vice president is Donald Fink, and he is referred to as Stinky. He's a clown, and that's his moniker, Stinky. The second vice president is Stephen Rashkel. Treasurer is Dennis Gold. Barry Oppenheimer is our secretary. Members at large are Jerome Springer, Mark Weinstein, illustrious Sir Finky, and he's here somewhere. Finky Fink. And then stewards are Fred Rhetoric, Leon Werb, and Tom McDonald. Hopefully some of them can join us later. At this time, I would like to introduce Helen. And like I said before, she is with the Esther Raab Holocaust Museum and Goodwin Education Center, Jewish Community Relations Council. And Eva Weiner, who is our guest speaker. Eva, I don't know how many people are aware of this. There was a ship that came from Germany and it was refused at all ports. And it was sent back. Eva was on that ship, and it's quite relevant to the Holocaust. And Eva, I would like you to speak now. And everybody else, please mute. And I'm quite interested in what she has to say. And then we're going to have a question and answer period afterwards. All right, Eva, you're on.
Yes, thank you, Arthur. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Helen, for arranging this. I now consider myself a Holocaust survivor, although for many, many years, I never thought of myself as having that distinction. I didn't have any of the signs or symbols that describe a Holocaust survivor. I did not have a number on my arm. I was not in a concentration camp. But eventually, when I realized that I was a part of a significant historical event and that I had a message, I then changed my mind and recategorized myself as a Holocaust survivor. And when I'm finished, I hope you'll agree with me. Now, my story is very different than most Holocaust survivor stories. I'll start with my own personal family. And that was, my parents were born in Poland. And during the early 1900s, there were pogroms against the Jewish population. And each of my parents with their families left Poland and traveled through Europe looking for a safe place to settle. Both families ended up in Berlin, Germany, which at the time was a very, very welcoming place. Berlin was a cosmopolitan, modern city, many theaters and movies and museums and universities. It was a culturally advanced city. And at the time, my parents with their families were able to settle. Both my parents were able to go to public school. My father's family established a bakery. He was one of 8 children. And of course, that time, all the kids worked in the bakery. It was a very successful business. My mother was one of 4. She had a brother and 2 sisters. And she was trained as a couturier dressmaker. She made personal and to-order clothing for the elegant women. But by the time my parents met, what was known as the Nuremberg Laws had been established in Germany, where no Jewish children were permitted to go to public school any longer. Jewish businesses were not allowed to do business with other than Jewish customers. Jewish doctors weren't allowed to treat anything other than Jewish patients. This was all enacted in the mid-30s when life became a nightmare for the Jewish population. My father's sisters, 3 sisters, 1 brother, and his parents saw the writing on the wall and were very disturbed. They left somewhere in the circa of 1936 and went to a place called Palestine, which is now the state of Israel. But by the time my parents got married, some of the family had already decided to leave, and life in Germany for Jews was very, very difficult. Then, of course, we had something known as Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, November 1938. This basically was the day that World War II began. The SS, the Gestapo, police, and all military marched through the streets, destroying the synagogues, the Jewish house of worship, destroying the holy books, smashing the windows, thereby getting the name of broken glass, of all the Jewish-owned businesses. The following day, my father was taken out of our apartment and put on a train with hundreds of other men and sent back to what they called the country of origin, because he was born in Poland. These men were being sent back to Warsaw, Poland, and their families were left behind. My father found himself in an apartment in Warsaw, 1 bedroom, sharing it with 12 other men. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was he had left his wife and baby, which was me, back in Berlin, not knowing what our fate was going to be. My mother and her 2 sisters started standing on lines on every embassy, every consulate that found itself in Berlin, sometimes for days on end, begging, pleading with any country to issue a visa, a permit to enter a foreign country. My mother was delighted. She was able to get a visa for a place called Siam. And when I talk to kids, they look at me very blank. Nobody's heard of Siam. So I explained it's now what's known as Thailand. But now she had a piece of paper that was evidence that my father had a destination and therefore was permitted to make his way back from Warsaw to Berlin on the condition that we leave Germany immediately. So my father started making his way back to Germany to join us. My mother had also sent money to her brother who was in Havana, Cuba. She sent money to him asking him to purchase a visa for Cuba. She had already applied for immigration numbers to the United States and thought it would be wonderful if we could wait for our number to be called up to America and wait for it in Cuba. So while my father was traveling back from Poland to Germany, the visa for Cuba came from my uncle. So now, given the choice of going to a place like Thailand, Siam, third world country with very little indoor plumbing, or going to a place like Havana, Cuba, where not only did we have family, but it was a beautiful place and only 90 miles away from America. So the choice was not a difficult one. We chose to use our visa to Cuba. Now, the Cuban visas were named something else. They were called landing permits, simply because they had the designation of us being only short-term residents in Cuba, that it would become only a stopover. So my mother was able to book passage on a ship called the MS St. Louis, owned by the Hamburg America line. My father came back. They packed what few belongings they were permitted, only one suitcase per person, and very little allowable cash or money to be taken out of the country. We packed what little we were permitted, got on a train in Berlin, and headed to Hamburg, where the ship was docked. We arrived at the dock, and we were greeted by this magnificent cruise ship, and there were banners flying, and there was a band playing, and there was a photographer running around taking pictures of everybody. It was a very, very festive experience. Some passengers were of mixed emotion. Some passengers had been residents of Germany for hundreds of years, for many, many generations. My parents, on the other hand, of course, were relatively new to Germany, and had no compunctions about leaving the Nazi regime behind and leaving the tormentors and going to a free country. So we boarded the ship, and it was a magnificent voyage. It was truly a cruise. We had dances and parties and shuffleboard, and there was a swimming pool on deck, and it was a true luxury liner, and we were treated beautifully. Unfortunately, no one was aware of what was happening behind the scenes. The Nazi regime had placed their agents in the government of Cuba to advise President Brew not to allow the ship to dock and not to allow the passengers to disembark. He then declared our papers, which I have the original copy of the original document, signed and sealed by the government of Cuba. President Brew declared them as worthless paper and would not recognize them. See, the man who issued these documents pocketed all the money that was paid for these landing permits. President Brew wasn't happy about that. He was a corrupt individual. He had no problem in listening to his Nazi advisors, and therefore declared these papers to be worthless. So now we arrived in Havana Harbor, but were not allowed to dock. We were already packed bags and ready to leave the ship, but we weren't allowed to get off. And all of a sudden, there's this negotiations going on. The captain is going on this little ship and a little boat, and he's going to the dock, and and some very important looking people are coming to the ship, and there's all this conferring going on. Little did we know that there was no way that we were going to be permitted to disembark. The captain tried everything. In spite of that, there was no one coming forth to allow us. The Jewish Agency, or the Joint Distribution Committee, as they were called, tried to negotiate with President Brew of Cuba, even offering a per capita if he would take the passengers. They were offered $500 per person. Doesn't sound like a lot of money today, but $500 in 1939 was exorbitant. Offered that money per person, and he still refused to allow us to get off the ship. The captain decided that we were only 90 miles off the United States, and surely if he took his ship to Miami, the United States would allow us to disembark. So he turned the ship around and headed towards Miami. My dad used to say, we got so close to Miami that you could almost read the license plates on the taxis on Ocean Avenue. That's how close we were to those beautiful palm trees and those beautiful hotels. But the minute we got close enough to see this, the Coast Guard came out and threw us out of American waters. We were not welcome. Our telegrams, which were sent to President Roosevelt, were not answered. Every country in South America, every country in Europe was begged, was pleaded with to please take the passengers. There was even talk of mutiny. The passengers wanted to take over the ship because they were definitely desperate, and they felt that if they went back to Germany, they wouldn't survive. And the captain agreed. He did not empathize with the Nazi Party or with their ideology. And he promised the passengers that he'd do anything in his power not to bring the ship back to Germany with the passengers and find safe refuge, even if he had to destroy the ship in England and beach it and set it afire if it had to be, other than taking his passengers back to Germany because he knew what their fate would be. Now we were turned away from America and every other country. Captain had no choice but to turn the ship back towards Europe. In the course of our trip back, 4 countries agreed to take some passengers each. No one country said, I'll take all 900. You have to realize we left Germany with 937 Jewish passengers. We sailed back with 907. Unfortunately, very few countries responded, but 4 did. Holland, France, Belgium, and England were the 4 countries that said they would take some of the passengers. So the list of passengers was divided into 4 sections. And each of the ones that were on each list would go to that destination country. My father was an extremely pious individual, and something told him to choose England as his destination. Years later, I asked him, why did you choose England? Because when the ship went back to Europe, it docked in Antwerp, Belgium, and my father's sister, her husband, and their baby was standing on the dock to greet us. And I asked him, why didn't you go to Belgium? His answer was, I wanted an English channel between me and Europe, And I wanted the country that was furthest away from Germany. So he selected England, and fortunately, we were able to get on that list. Because we know that Belgium, Holland, and France were overrun by Nazi troops within weeks and months. And of course, the only country that fought against Germany on the side of the Allies was England. Of all the 4 countries, the safest was to be in England. So I lived in London the entire war. And that was not easy. Unfortunately, I spent many hours, endless nights in bomb shelters. Now, bomb shelters were built out of brick, 6 feet underground and 6 feet above ground, and should house about 50 people, and used to cram in closer to 200 people, like sardines. You could be in the shelter for 2 hours, sometimes up to 8 hours, depending on how long the air raid lasted. My dad was able to work as a baker, and he worked most nights because that's when you have to make fresh bread for the morning. So after the air raids, which mostly came at night, my father would come home from work and sometimes needed to search for us, not knowing if we were safe or not. One day he spent the entire day looking for us because we had been relocated due to bombs falling in the area. But life in England was a piece of cake compared to what it would have been had we had to have gone to Belgium, Holland, or France, because we know the fate of those that went to the 3 countries was very, very bad. Many of them did not survive. So I'm grateful that we were in England, in spite of all the hardship. At least I was alive to talk about it. After the war, my parents decided not to stay in England because we really didn't have anyone other than some friends. And our family, my mother's family, had been able to get to America. And those of my father's family that survived all were in Palestine. So the choice was go to Palestine, which was not yet Israel, and having its own military and political problems, or coming to America, and my mother won the discussion. I'm not saying it was an argument, but she won out because she wanted to be with her sisters, and my father, of course, gave in. That's how we came to America. We arrived in America Memorial Day weekend in New York City. The night before was Saturday night, and I saw the magnificent Statue of Liberty. She was such an inspiration to me because it had been pounded into my head that she was a symbol of the free country that we were going to. The next day we docked in New York, but we weren't able to leave the ship because there was a dock strike. It was frightening at first because it was deja vu of Havana. But fortunately, the dock strike ended on Tuesday and we were able to disembark in New York. My parents settled in Astoria, New York, where one of my aunts had settled. But we summered that summer in Belmar, New Jersey, where my mother's other sister was. And I had a wonderful beach encounter, learned how to swim in the Atlantic Ocean. And I was raised in Astoria, New York, but I ended up marrying a man from Belmar, New Jersey. He was my cousin's best friend, and have been living at the Jersey Shore ever since, and I'm thrilled. Love the beach, love the shore. I have two beautiful daughters. One is married, one is not. My married daughter has given me two magnificent grandchildren. And I'm grateful to have been able to grow up in the United States and made a choice of being an American citizen. And not only that, but the career that I retired from was a budget analyst for the Department of Defense for the United States. So I gave back, I hope, a little bit of what I've been given. That's basically my own personal story. But when I realized that I was part of a very complex propaganda plot created by the Nazi government in the form of a ship. You see, the headlines when the ship departed said, the German headlines read, "Jews leave Germany for Cuba. Good riddance, we're glad to get rid of them. We're glad that they're leaving. Nobody will stop them." But the minute we reached Havana Harbor, the same headline paper read, "Jews not permitted to enter. Cuba doesn't want them. Nobody else wants them. They're unwanted cargo. And we will do the world a favor by eliminating them for you," which is the preamble to what they were going to call the final solution. This ship became a symbol, an entrance to the ideology of the Nazi Party and what their aim was. And when I speak to children, I emphasize the fact that this was all brought on by hate and bigotry, prejudice, anti-Semitism. When allowed to fester and grow, grew into the greatest calamity of the 20th century, a Holocaust where 11 million non-combatants, 11 million non-military, just civilians, were killed for no reason other than they were different. Whether they had a different religion, whether they were disabled, whether they were of a different opinion, the prejudice and hate was allowed to fester and grow into the biggest calamity. And still today, we have not learned our lesson because genocides are happening today. We see it all the time where hate is allowed to grow and people are destroyed for no other reason than being different. So I tell the children that how the importance of standing up against bigotry and hate. Instead of being a bystander and watching it happen, we live in the greatest country in the world where not only are you permitted, but you're encouraged to speak out against injustice. And that's why I changed my category into a survivor, because I felt I had a message and a message to share, especially with children. So I give the children a homework assignment. And I will do it for you as well. Adults are not necessarily allowed not to do this. So pass on the message of the Holocaust, because we survivors are not going to be here much longer to tell the stories. And the next generation must know what happened in order to prevent it from ever happening again. And their homework assignment is to continue passing on the word to the next generation. And I tell them that the assignment doesn't have to be completed for 20 years, but I get their promise to fulfill the assignment. That's basically my story and why I tell it. I hope you have a lot of questions, and I'll be happy to fill in all the gaps with some of your questions.
Eva, I have one question. Between Holland, France, Belgium, and England, what was the first port of call?
The ship went back to Europe and landed in Antwerp, Belgium. And from there, the 4 countries received their passengers. We went over by tender from Antwerp to England. Others went on trains and buses at the time to their respective countries.
So everybody got off the ship at the same time?
Yes, yes.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Go on.
Eva, I'd like to ask a personal question, if I may. How old were you at the time?
I was only 10 months old on the ship.
Oh.
I was one of the youngest children. However, I'm very fortunate in the fact that my parents shared the story with me long before I knew the significance of it. Actually, I just felt it was part of my early childhood, and they shared their feelings and their experiences with me, as parents do. But until the book, The Voyage of the Damned, was published, I never realized its significance and that I was part of that significant event. They then made a film, a Hollywoodized version of the voyage, but it is a poignant film that really gives the message of the ship.
Thank you. I also, as a former veteran, I'd like to thank you for your service to the government.
I enjoyed working at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, before it closed.
Well, thank you very much.
No.
Any other questions?
John Green, you have to unmute.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering, when you said about the trip to Florida, you see it so close to Florida, why the captain, when they said they weren't going to take you in, but the captain scuttled the ship right there. That way they have to rescue you and bring you into the United States.
Well, he thought better, he was going to scuttle the ship, but not in America. He had opted to do it in Scotland, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really? Okay.
He said he was going to beach the ship in Scotland and set it ablaze, so that England would have to take us.
Right. That would have been a smart move to do. Yeah, that's good.
Yes. Well, fortunately, we didn't have to.
Well, the Nazis were in control.
A question. We have a friend who was on that boat, and his last name was Fuld, F-U-L-D.
He just passed away. He's a dear friend of mine, Harry.
Fuld, yes.
I knew him very well, yes.
Oh, we knew him from Chabad. He was wonderful. Great guy.
Wonderful man.
Yes, absolutely.
His cousin and I were good friends as well. And that's how I met Harry. His cousin Ruth and I were neighbors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we knew him for many years.
Yes.
Yeah, very, very nice person.
Wonderful man.
But somebody jumped off at Cuba. They jumped over the side and swam to Cuba.
Yes, my father had engaged him in conversation one evening, and the man was lamenting the fact that under no circumstances would he go back to Germany, because he had been incarcerated in a concentration camp and released just to go on the ship. And he was so petrified of having to go back to Germany that my father saw him on the deck when he had slit his wrists and jumped overboard in an attempt to suicide. One of the stevedores, one of the cabin boys, did rescue him, and he was taken to a hospital in Cuba and did survive. But his family was not permitted to get off the ship.
Well, Harry Fould's father they had a very large department store. The father, the day after Kristallnacht, was dragged out of their home, and a day or two later, he was murdered. And then his wife took whatever money they had. Well, they had money for the trip, but to get his body back, and it was quite harrowing. Such a shame. Anyway.
Yes. Of course, in the last few years, I've had the wonderful privilege of being together with some other St. Louis survivors, and each of them had a harrowing experience. Comparing stories can be very, very disorienting. Each person, of course, has their own difficult story to tell.
What was the name of that movie?
The movie is called Voyage of the Damned. It was released in the 70s. I believe it is still available. I know the book is available on Amazon. And the book is a very easy read. It's written like a diary. We have a wonderful documentary that's called Complicit that I was involved in and still am. And this is a documentary that talks about the government of FDR and what was going on in his government at the time the St. Louis sailed. And it gives the perspective of the American view of the ship and the reasons why we were not permitted to come to America. If you have the opportunity to see the film, again, the name is Complicit. It's an award-winning documentary. It won the film festival in Rhode Island, and it's an excellent film.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us the decision to not allow the ship and the passengers to enter the United States? Did the government of the United States ever show any regret about that? Did they ever, apologize to the survivors?
Yes, I was privileged to have received an apology, a copy of the apology resolution by the United States government and presented to the Library of Congress. And that was done in 2009, where Congress actually apologized for what had happened in 1939, only 70 years later. But they did apologize for not having allowed us entry and said they were sorry for what they had done. In addition to that, we had a wonderful reception in Canada where Prime Minister Trudeau addressed Parliament, where we were present. 6 of the survivors were present in Parliament and witnessed a 20-minute dissertation, heart-wrenching, tear-jerking, sincere apology from Trudeau for not letting us into Canada. And then we had a private reception with him. It was charming and it was wonderful. So 2 countries did apologize, America and Canada, for something that was done in 1939. I also want to point out the fact that our captain, one man, and my mother used to call him our savior, one man made the extreme effort and stepped out of the box and said he would not follow orders and not bring back the passengers. After the war, we found out, some of the passengers found out that he had lived in poverty the entire war. So we collected enough money to sustain him for the rest of his life. And we recognized him as a righteous among the nations. And he is honored at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. I had the privilege 4 years ago to place a flower at his name. He truly, one man, can make a difference. And I tell the kids that one person standing up can make a difference.
I have a question for you. And first, thank you for sharing your story and everything you've experienced and your family has experienced. For me, I have experienced anti-Semitism in very recent times. I was forced out of my career. I was forced out of my job because I am Jewish. I was thrown in an oven. I was told if I would report this, that they would go after my family and those I loved and cared about. I have since then been able to rebuild my life in a lot of ways and continue to rebuild it. And I think back on Viktor E. Frankl and talking about seeing the world in gray and seeing what he experienced and hearing these experiences of so many. And how do you see things moving forward? Because even when I reported this to Josh Shapiro, his office basically said, because I wasn't touched by a Catholic priest, they really weren't interested in it. And they really didn't do anything. And I've been let down by state and federal governments when reporting it, that what can be done to make it so that never again truly means never again?
Good point.
I can only answer by saying, when we see an injustice, to fight against it, to work against it, to speak out. I know no other way. Certainly we have to do it continuously. Fortunately, we have several organizations that are active in doing that. Certainly the ADL, the Joint Distribution Committee, American Jewish Congress. There are many, many organizations, fortunately, that we can enlist for their help. But each individual has to work in their own community against bigotry.
So the Philadelphia ADL office is extremely active, and I would suggest you reach out to them.
I did reach out to them, and because they said I reported it to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, at that time they said they couldn't do anything.
Wow.
I'm sorry to cut off, but yeah, I reported to them. I reported it to Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. I've reached out to the AG's office. I reported to the FBI as a hate group. I even had a local police department basically not even file it as a hate crime locally. So it is very prevalent today. It is not just a recent phenomenon, and I think that it's something that is very concerning, because you can hear the stories of just the struggle just to escape certain death, and that even in a country that should be more free, it's still more prevalent than and closer to home than we really would be comfortable with.
We do know that still exists, yes. No question about it. And I experienced it in Germany when I was invited back to Berlin as a former Berliner. I experienced anti-Semitism then also. So even in Germany, where it is outlawed, anti-Semitism still does exist. And yes, we know it is here in America as well. Unfortunately, rearing its ugly head in many places. But we have to be vigilant, and we can't stop. Some doors close, some legal things happen, unfortunately, but we must continue to be aware and be alert.
Eva mentioned numerous times that she speaks to students, and she does that very frequently for us. And we're hopeful that the more people who are educated about the consequences of this hatred, the more we're able to influence future generations to help to eliminate hate of all kinds, not only anti-Semitism, but racism and all kinds of hatred. So we have called on survivors day after day after day to share their stories of what can happen if hate is allowed to go unchecked.
I have one question, Eva. What year did the boat depart from Germany?
We left in May of 1939, arrived back in Antwerp, June.
June of 40?
No, June 39.
Yeah.
Oh, so you weren't on the ship that long? Okay.
No, we went back, and we were in Havana Harbor for a while, but then after that went back to Europe.
And what I heard is that after the ship left, you left in 39, there was no more ships after that. They will not allow anybody else to leave the country. Is that true?
No, there were some other ships that did go. One, in fact, went very soon thereafter, but turned around immediately. A little later, there were some ships that did somehow get to Cuba and other places, obviously.
Anybody else have any questions?
On the ship, were there other people other than Jews on the ship, or they were all Jewish?
Of the 937 passengers, I think there were about 5 non-Jews. Although there were 26 people were able to leave the ship because they had different papers purchased from someone else, and they could not be denied. Most of those papers were issued to family of people that were living in Cuba that had government jobs or had connections or what have you, and had other papers that were recognized and were allowed to disembark. But coming back, we were 907 and all Jews.
Anybody else have any questions for Eva?
Eve, it seems like there's a lot of corruption was going on back at that time because there's a lot of money being passed around to stop you from being immigrated to the United States or any other country that matter, except England.
Does she know how many people survived the war?
Yes, I have those figures, but
Does she know how many of the 900 survived?
it's approximately 250. I have the numbers written down, but I'm not at my fingertips at the moment. About 250 did not survive. Only one in England was killed by a bomb. The idea was that several of the passengers were able to leave the countries that they went to very soon thereafter. Either their numbers came up in the American lottery, immigration lottery, or they were able to take another ship and go to another country or go somewhere else. So some of those that survived from the 3 European countries were able to leave soon thereafter. Unfortunately, those that did not survive were, most of them had been taken to concentration camps. One of these wonderful women, who was a dear friend, I call her my soul sister. She was 4 months older than I. She was a big girl, but we become very good friends. And she has a tragic story. She was on the ship with her parents and her grandfather, and she and her family were sent to Germany. Her father gave her to a Christian family to be raised. And her mother and her father were sent to Auschwitz and didn't survive. She survived with the Christian family and later was brought to America by an uncle. So that's just one of the stories. Each of the passengers that survived has a horrendous story to tell.
What happened to the Jews that went to Thailand, to Siam? Do you know?
I'm
any?
not sure. I don't know any of the people that ended up in Siam. I have to this day not met anybody who actually went to Siam. I did meet some people who went to Singapore, which was very welcoming at the time. About 30,000 Jews found refuge in Singapore. Not Singapore, I'm sorry. Shanghai. My mistake, I misspoke, Shanghai. And about 30,000 Jews did survive in Shanghai. But I have no idea who actually went to Siam, if anybody did.
One of our past presidents actually was in Shanghai. His name is Israel Wolmark. He got out and he spent time in Shanghai. Did not describe it in glowing terms.
No. But at least they survived.
At least he survived. That's what he said.
Yes. No, the circumstances were very difficult in Shanghai, no question.
I read a book about it. Yeah, difficult.
Is South America an option in any of the countries in South America? Because after the war, there were survivors that went to Argentina and other countries in South America.
All the South American countries were contacted by the Joint Distribution Committee, as was those in Europe. None of them responded.
Wow. But that's where a lot of the Nazis ended up in.
This was after the war. Yes, a lot went to South America. Although a lot of Jews went to South American countries before the war started.
Wow.
Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question. By the way, thank you for speaking, you and Helen, for bringing you to us tonight. It is thoroughly appreciated. Wanted to ask you, as unfortunately the Holocaust survivors are older and there's less around, my worry is that that is going to get forgotten about, and that it will get completely lost to to the generations that, oh, well, that just happened. You know, it's not a big deal. And although we try to teach it, it gets thought as an afterthought. Is that a worry for you, especially what your family dealt with and all the other millions of people that are perished?
It disturbs me that only 14, I think it's 14 states, make Holocaust education mandatory. Fortunately, New Jersey is one that does. But even that is not enough. I think it should be a national mandatory education. Because unfortunately, current genocides have to be taught as well. Yes, the Holocaust is the pinnacle of what should be taught. But even studying other genocides is vitally important and should be mandatory across the country.
I will add to Eva's answer and tell you that we've started working with the children and the grandchildren of survivors and have asked them to learn their family stories and be ready to share them. And many of the children and grandchildren, we call them second and third gen members, have started speaking for us because, as you said, Mike, there are fewer and fewer survivors who are able to do this. And Zoom certainly has not made it any easier for them.
Although on my end, it was wonderful because I did a program yesterday that reached not only 5 states, I reached Scotland as well. And next week I have a program that's going to South Africa. So Zoom has been an advantage in some respects. I'm able to go places that I now can't fly to anymore.
Wonderful. That's very nice.
You have a good story to tell.
For me, your story is touching because my grandmother was in Dachau, and I barely heard any of her stories, except for she had the tattoo on her arm. So unfortunately, her story is lost, except she lost relatives in the Holocaust. But thank you so much for speaking to us tonight.
I'm grateful that I'm able.
Yes, me too. I'm glad you're there.
Thank
So
you.
much for having us tonight.
God bless. God bless.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem.
Amen. If anybody has any questions for me in the future, please feel free to contact me.
Mike has my email address and I'd be happy to forward the questions on to Eva.
Okay, next time we're in Belmar, New Jersey.
I didn't hear you.
But the next time we're in Belmar, New Jersey.
Please call me. We'll walk on the boardwalk.
May.
I want to thank Helen Kirschbaum and Eva Weiner for coming in tonight. Without Zoom, I don't, like you had said, it brings the country and the world closer to stories like this. It's very, very important. And now I'll go on with our program, if that is all right. I want to thank you both. And you can stay on if you want.
I think we're going to sign off. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful seeing you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
No, they
Oh,
still
wait.
have more business meetings.
On June 5th, we're having the Ocean City Parade, and our float is going to be operated by Barry Oppenheimer. And was that?
What time will that be? What's the day? On June 5th, what time of the day?
Noon. Noon is the parade.
Noon to 3.
Because we would just drive over there. We are.
This is June 5th. What?
So what time should we get there? Where would you start?
Hillary, I'll get the information. We'll send it out to you. I'll get you it.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next board meeting will be May 30th, and it's going to be at 10 o'clock in the morning, around 10 o'clock. And our next stated meeting will be June 3rd at 7 p.m. At that time, we're going to have our very own Ben Littman is going to talk about, Ben, what did we discuss? Ben, are you there? He's not there. Anyway, we're going to talk about Native Masons or something on that order, you know, old Masons.
Old Masons.
Old Indians, yeah. And Ben is also the Lulu second ceremonial chair. Now, at this time, is any of the officers, past potentates, members, and friends have anything to offer before we close?
Art, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm gonna call you, John, in a minute. Yeah. Okay. Since our potentate is not on,
Arthur, can I say one thing real quick?
Sure.
I want to wish a good luck. I know Bart is on the call to his son who is running for judge in Philadelphia. And also, so anyone knows, Dana is running for the Chamonix School Board, my lovely wife. So if anyone's in Bucks County to help spread the word, it'd be greatly appreciated. And Arthur, thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
And guys, his name is Craig Levin. He's not my biological child. I've just been his stepfather for the last 46 years.
Oh.
If you're a registered Democrat, please vote for him if you live in the city. Thank you. This announcement was paid for by the Levin for Judge Committee.
Is he a family court judge?
He is not a judge right now. He's running for the Court of Common Pleas.
Okay.
Number 12.
I'm just curious. I didn't remember this. Okay. Anyway, since our potentate is not on right now, I'm going to recognize John Green, who is our Chief Raban, and will be the potentate next year. You know, he'll still speak and introduce, you know, the other dignitaries. John, you're on.
John, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I got a few announcements to make. Like I say, I send apologies for the potentate not being here tonight. He had something he had to take care of, so I'm just filling in for him, doing his job, helping him out. On May 18th, the combined Delaware County and Conestoga Shrine Club meeting at Charlotte's Restaurant, for those who like to attend. It's going to be a combination of Delaware County and Conestoga Shrine Club. On 5/30 of this month, the Yacht Club Memorial Service and Picnic in Elkton, Maryland will be held. If anybody would like to attend, okay? And then plus you just Art just talked briefly about Ocean City, which I'll get Dan to elaborate on more. Ocean City at the same time. And on June 11th of next month, the Activities Club is having a function. Okay.
Okay, find out. Yeah.
I have a flyer right here that was put out for the Activities Club. Well, we're receiving. What it says here, it's a Friday night, a Shrine movie night, June 11th, 7:30 p.m. Lulu Shrine, Butler Pike. $10 per person, families welcome. We'll have hoagies, pizza, fried chicken, salad, desserts, and more. Beer and soda included. RSVP June the 10th to Finky at 610-633-3333 or email him finkytheclown@aol.com. The green room will also be open, playing cards, pool, video games, and more. We'll also be holding roastings, hot dogs, and making more. A marathon outside the fire pit, lots of food inside. Bring your lawn chair and ready to laugh. It'll be a Three Stooges night that night, okay? And also a Hallmark Channel on a big screen, we were showing a heartwarming movie, especially for the ladies. Okay, so if anybody wants to attend those events, please come out. You'll be very welcome. Thank you. Yeah, Dan, would you emphasize on the Ocean City weekend, please?
Sure, I'd be glad to. It's coming up the beginning of June. I believe it starts on the 4th of June. The 3rd of June, actually, it starts. Some people come down on 4th. If you'd like to come down just on Saturday for the day, that is when the parade is. The parade starts at noon, so we normally stage at about 11 o'clock or so. There, you could just come down and be with your club unit or just yourselves and enjoy the day down there. But there is also an option for those that would like to join us that are staying at the Tahiti. There's about 80 some people that are going to be staying there right now. We have a very nice crowd, but they have a real nice lunch after the parade. And for anybody who would like to be involved with the lunch after the parade and their hospitality suite for that day, it's $25 per person to do that, which is a good deal with the hospitality suite and everything. The only thing is that you need to let Northeast Shrine Club, Ron Meredith, know as soon as possible. Outside about a week to 10 days before the event, we're starting to approach that time, is the cutoff, because they have to call in the numbers for the food and everything. This is our first time we're really getting together. We're hoping that a number of clowns are coming down. We do have a number of units and clubs that are coming down. So it's really going to be a nice opportunity for us to finally get together with each other in a nice setting, being down there in Ocean City. So we'd love to see us come down for that. As far as the activities club night, we had one just this a week or so ago. It was wonderful. It was well attended by non-members, and we ended up signing up 3 members that night. So this is an opportunity for you to bring your friends, your neighbors, your friends from Lodge on out. And it's just a fun night. There's no obligation for anything, but they'll get a little chance to see what we're all about and the fun that we have. They can bring out their family, and it's a real good opportunity for us to show what we're all about and potentially build our membership from that. There is something being discussed right now. It has not been finalized, but we may, before the activities club events, or it'll be probably after 7 o'clock, but we're going to gather up those new members that have not actually gone through the ceremonial, and give them an opportunity to go through a short virtual ceremonial in the post office. And they will become a legal member at that point. So if you have anybody in mind, you can get a petition to them between now and then. They can actually be sworn in as a member. And I think we're going to end up doing it that evening. We wanted to do something where they'd have something that's a little fun afterwards. And we just think the activities clubs are doing such a wonderful job with that, that we felt that was the perfect opportunity to do that. So again, and the other thing I just wanted to mention real quick is you heard that Delaware and Conestoga have put together their 2 clubs to meet. I just heard that you're still not planning on meeting in June. You're about the last club or unit that's not meeting in person. We've had clubs and units that have been meeting for many months now, and every single time we have a meeting, the attendance is growing. So the Conestoga and Delaware thought it'd be a good idea for them to combine their night into one night, so we would have a nice crowd. And I think that might be potential for you to consider that with Bucks County, if there's any thoughts about that. Bucks County is planning on meeting next month, but they're just kind of barely hovering around the minimum number required by the venue. So, a combined club meeting like that for a month or 2 until we get back up and strong might be a thought for you to consider. Again, thank you very much. It was a wonderful, wonderful program. And thank you for the opportunity to be a part of it.
Dan, you want to talk on membership a little bit?
Well, I think I hit on it pretty good, but I think what you're asking me is we do have a new program. We have a What's Number program that Hillary was very big in putting together. And it's working out very well. We noticed it the other night at the activities club. The guys were literally walking around already starting to ask, what's your number? And basically what that means is how many people have you brought in to the shrine this year? Starting January 1st of this year, we put together a new program where if you bring in 3 members into the shrine in a single year, you'll get the following year's dues for free. If you do 7 within 1 year, you will receive 3 years for free. And then we're going to keep track of your lifetime total, what your number is, as to how many people you've brought in. And all of this is based on a first line signer, of course. And at the point where you reach 25, you will have your lifetime worth of dues completely paid for the rest of your life. So it really is exciting for the younger guys because they go back to their lodges and they bring in their friends and different people. And it's already starting to work. I mean, Ben is at 2 or almost, he might even have 3 already. There's a number of guys that got 1, 2s and close to 3s or 3s, and they're already walking around getting excited about it. So I'm very excited about that. And it is something that if the different clubs and units would like to do a similar type of a program, an incentive program, the numbers, the mathematical numbers are very profitable. So that is something that you may want to consider to do within your own club. Thank you for that opportunity, John.
Tonight I'm with Dan Sheets, the assistant for band tonight. I want to recognize a couple of past potentates if I can. Try to get them in seniority order, but we'll see what we can do. Ben Beard, illustrious Sir Ben Beard. How you doing, buddy? Any comments?
Yeah, I'm not the Ben they keep talking about. I'm the old guy.
The old guy.
I find this every year. This is an amazing meeting, and it's a lot of fellows do know. I have a rather weird background, I guess. I'm basically a Scot to begin with, but I went to what was at the time called Jewish High School in Philadelphia, which was central. And I have a lot of Jewish friends, including the guy that's laughing at me now. And so over the years, I've gotten a lot of perspective from that and a lot of the feeling. At the same time, for most of my career, I worked for German companies. Got to spend a lot of time in Germany, was at some of the memorials, at some of the what's still some of the camps. And so I have a weird, I guess, perception of the whole thing. And a lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of what's happening. The one thing I can say for those who became friends of mine who are Germans, and they were not in the greater Berlin area where most of, I guess, the things took place. Most of themselves were rather embarrassed by the whole thing. We're not certainly for it. And even the people that owned the companies I worked for were more or less just swept aside. And it's very interesting. And as I said, every year I look forward to this meeting. Hope to see all you guys soon. We're starting to get out, I hope. And so you all take care.
Thank you, Leslie, Ben. Dale Stein.
All present and accounted for. No, just a great evening. Can't wait to see everybody in person. Everybody stay safe, and everybody, if you haven't got your shots yet, get them.
Illustrious Sir Finke, would you like to have anything to offer?
You did a great job telling everybody about the event on the 11th of June. And thank you, and Dan Sheet. We usually have every month at the last day of the month we have a concert for the children. It's called the Celebration of the Month. This month, unfortunately, it's going to be the holiday, Memorial weekend, so we're changing it to the 26th. And the activity, believe it or not, the Activities Club is going to host and sponsor it. And we're going to have a young woman singing for the kids. Her name is Amanda Nolan, very good singer. And that's about it. Jamie will send out a reminder and let everybody chime in on it. It's always a good time. Again, thanks for calling on me. Good, very good meeting.
Thank you, illustrious sir. Illustrious Sir Ed Blum, would you have anything to offer, sir?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to Quaker City. Tonight's presentation was extremely exciting. It was something I've never heard of, and it was very, informative. I know I've listened to many of the Holocaust things that you've had over the years, and of course they're all interesting as well. But tonight was something that was extremely different. And Eva was a very well-spoken lady, and it's amazing that kind of stuff happened, and it was very good. A great meeting, guys, and good to see everybody, and hope to see everybody in real life in the future. Thanks.
Just like to offer my own prospect on the whole thing is that I hate to hear things like this happen to people like this. I mean, because of their nationality or religion. And I just think it never happens again, because I'll tell you, it's got to be crushed. It's a nasty thing. These people.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to call on Dan Sheets for the closing prayer.
Okay, bow your heads. Dear Lord, again, thank you for this opportunity to be together with special friends, the special evening, and a special subject matter. We ask that you continue to watch over all of us, keep us safe until we see each other again. This we ask in the honor of your name. Amen. So mote it be.
I want to thank everybody for coming. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Buddy.
What's that say?
Good night, all. Take care.
That's all.